I've been focusing on the next after the Mishnah, so I have to remind myself where we were up to. Right? We had brought the machlokes between Abaye and Rava, Lagabe Amuma Lahachas, where Rava says that someone could only become pasul where he says something that's relevant to Mammon.
Right.
Abaye says no, even Amuma Lahachas could become pasul because he's a Rasha. Now, it happens to be that, as we're going to see later in the Gemara, Amum Malachas is a lesser isser than saying false edus about someone else. You're saying false edus, you're both damaging the other person and damaging, as well as
we had it yesterday.
yeah, right. We're just reviewing to get
Right.
back to with the swing of where we're up to, right? So that happens to be the case that Abaya, in addition to saying that it doesn't have to be specifically a mamlahachas, he also says that you can become pasul edus when you say edus about a lesser charge. That will also pasul you for something that's more chamer, in spite of the fact that one would think that something more chamer, a person would be reluctant to be over. So he said. So let's say we wanted to say Abaye is saying like in the machlekes or main Rabbi Yosi that that Meir had said, what an Eid Zayim passes you for any Isser, it's mashma, it's clear from what Rabbi Yosi says that Meir says that we disregard the relative levels of Isser of what the Eid Zayim said. It doesn't make a difference if the Eid Zayim said about Dini Mamonis or Dini Nefashis. Either way, they're going to be if he says false Eidus about someone else, he's going to be puzzled for to say any type of Isser. Whereas Rabbi Yosi, so that's like we said, Abaya. Abaya also ignores the relative level of Isser once you become a Rasha from saying false Eidus apostles you. Whereas Rabbi Yosi says that you're only someone who becomes Chuzam Adin Nefashis will be also for Dini Nefashis, but someone who's also for Huzam for Dini Mamonis, that's a lower level of Isser. We're not chayshish that he's going to swear falsely to put someone to death, because that's a bigger problem.
Okay, where are we?
Hi, Rafal. We're still just like reviewing outside how we got to where we're up to yesterday. We're still reviewing.
Oh.
Reviewing the machlekes Abaye and Rava and Rabbi Yosi and Rameir, and how Abaye is like Rameir and Rava is like Rabbi Yosi. So we had asked the question that we brought a brisa, which seemed to say like Abaye. I'm sorry, that seemed to say like Rava, where it says that a person becomes pasul when he says edus legabe mamnas to pasul someone else. And we're going to be on. We're going to rejoin. It's going to be on Chav Zayin Amud Beis. That's where we're up to. So again, we had brought a brisa, which seemed to provide a basis for Rava, because it says that you're going to be chayiv, you're going to be pasul edus if you say edus that relates to mamonis, but it seems to indicate that if it's not mamonis, you're not going to be pasul, and that's not like Abaye. So he wanted to say that. So we had come to the conclusion that the halacha is like Abaye. So we asked, how can we have a brisa that's not like it? So he wanted to say it's like Rabbi Yosi. So we asked the question, but how could you say that particular brisa is like Rabbi Yosi, who Abaye disagrees with, but we paskin like Rabbi Yosi? So how can we paskin like Abaye if the brisa is like Rabbi Yosi and we paskin like Rabbi Yosi? So that's where we're up to. So we said because there's a stam mishnah like Rameir. So we brought a whole story where we see that the psak was like Rameir.
No, we're up to the
Hani Mili 4 lines down from Chav Zayin Amud Beis. We had seen, we had asked, how could you paskin like Rameh over there? And we said, again, the same thing. We came to the same conclusion that we had from our Gemara. We had in that story of, I think it was Barchama, that we paskin like Rameh, but it's because there's a stamish like Rameh, Mimai. So that's what we're up to now. Where do we see a stam mishnah, the paskins like Rameh, who says that, who says like Abaya, that you can passel both from a less chamadika issa to a more chamadika. Ilay mehad tnan. Kol roy laden din nefashis. Roy laden din imamnis. You'll say it comes from this mishnah. I think it's a nida that says anyone who's capable of being dan din nefashis also capable of being dan din imamnis. And we said money. Who is this like? Ilay Rabbi Yasi. If it was like Rabbi Yasi, but this statement would not be true according to Rabbi Yasi. Ha'ika eid zaymim demamen. There's the eid zaymim demamen, someone who said edus of a mamonis, and therefore he became and then he was found to be an eid zaymim. So according to Rabbi Yasi, the kashal adinim mamonis. So such a person is going to be possible. He's going to be possible adinim mamonis and kashal adinim nefashis. Like you said, Rabbi Yasi limits. He says that you're only going to be chai. We only cause you to become pasul if you said something on dinin mamonis, on dinin mamonis, but we don't suspect that you're going to lie legabi dinin nefashis. So how could you say kol roy lo dinin nefashis roy lo dinin mamonis? We just according to Rabbi Yasi, an aid who was huzam on dinin mamonis is not. It's that statement will not be true. Elulav remehi. So l'chayre that brisa that says kol roy lodin dini nefashis roy lodin dini mamonis. That's like Rameir. So that's how we have a stam mishnah like Rameir. So no, mimai dilma epsula yuchsin kai. Maybe the reason why over there it's going to be why we say that kol roy lodin dini nefashis. It's not talking about someone who's roy as far as saying edus. Someone who's roy because of a psul, that he said something, he's a choshed al edus, that he said false edus. Maybe that's talking about only within the category of yuchsin. We're saying about someone who's kosher to say to be a dayan in dinei mamonis is kosher to be a dayan in dinei nefashis. It means someone who is who is not a eved, he's not a ger, which are possible to be dayan. But if they're kosher for dinei mamonis, they're also going to be kosher with dinei nefashis. But it doesn't say anything. It doesn't have any opinion about that. Brisa is not referring to someone who is choshed because he said a false edus, or someone who's choshed because he stole. Dilay teimach. And I'll prove to you that has to be talking about dinei psulei yuchsin and not psulim of choshed where he's choshed for passing himself. Sefer diktani, that brisa that says kol roy lodin dini mamonis nafash is also roy lodin dini mamonis. Yesh roy lodin dini mamonis ve'en roy lodin dini nefashis. There are those who are roy lodin dini mamonis, but they can't say dini nefashis. Amai ain't a roy. Why would it not be roy? Even if you say like Rameir, the itzim b'din nefashos roy lodin dini mamonis. Even Rameir will say that if you become pasul in dini nefashos, you're certainly going to be roy in dini mamonis. So how could it be that you say that there's someone who's roy lodin dini mamonis and not roy lodin dini nefashos? So we're talking about about someone who pasul himself. Even Rameir will say that you can go from it if you're already found to be choshed on dinei nefashos, you're certainly going to be choshed on dinei mamonis. But so am I in a roy? It's in dinei nefashos, roy lot in dinei mamonis. Someone who is found to be it's in dinei nefashos, roy lot in dinei mamonis. But the Kol Pasalu, everyone will say that that's possible. So when we're saying that there are those who are roy lodon dinim mominus, you can have someone who is roy lodon dinim mominus, but his psul yuchsin is not such that it puzzles him from that doesn't allow him to be don dinim nefashos. He can't be on a bezdin of 23, but he can be in a bezdin of 3 to be don dinim mominus. So too, our question over here is talking about psul yuchsin. So we're left back to our original question. Where do we have a stam Mishnah like Rameir that allows us to paskin like Rameir instead of Rabbi Yossi? We normally paskin like Rabbi Yossi, and that will then be explain why we paskin like Abai. Allah kasasam montana. The Tanan. It comes from this Mishnah. The Tanan. Eloin hapsulin. These are those that are puzzled to say edus and to be dayanim. Hamasachik b'kuvia. Someone who plays with dice. The gambler, like we said, he's a smachta lekanya, so he's like a gana for malve ribis. Again, he has a yen for money. He lends with ribis. Mafriche yoinim. We had the machloikas, I mean that he steals using his yoinim, or he uses them for gambling. B'seichrei shvius, and those who do business with shvius. V'havadim, and an eved is also possible. Anything that a woman can't say edus on, they also will also be possible for such, or that she can't say edus. Yes, any edus that a woman can't make, these chulin also can't say edus. A woman that can.
Talk about Eved Ivri?
I'm sorry?
It's talking about Eved Ivri?
No, it's talking about an Eved Knani. An Eved Ivri, I think, as far as I know, an Eved Ivri is kosher to say edus. So, money. So who is this like? Rabbi Yossi. How could, if you say it's Rabbi Yossi, Vika edus, well, Ika edus b'nei nefasha she'eni yishik sherilo, v'henk sherilo. According to Rabbi Yossi, that we say that someone who comes puzzle in dinei mominus is not puzzle for dinei nefashos. This statement would not be true, because an isha certainly cannot say edus in dinei nefashos, and these edim who are puzzle, they were found to be puzzle, but they did something that asks them in dinei mominus, they're not going to become puzzle in dinei nefashos. Al Ramehi. Elamai, it must be Rameir. So this is the Stam Mishnah like Rameir. Come Barchama, who is the original guy who had killed someone and then parceled his edus using and paskening like Rameir. Nashke Akare v'kabel Karge the Kulishna. He gave him a kiss, he kissed his feet, and he agreed to pay his taxes for saving him from getting executed. They said they're going to poke out his eyes, but because we were able to pasken, the din is like Rameir, and according to Rameir, someone who's possible for dinei mominus is also possible, is possible for dinei nefashos. So therefore, he's going to get off on his death sentence. Okay. Just give me a second then. Dr. Mishnah. Elohim HaKroivim. These are the Kroivim. This is going to give, I don't know, some people will give nostalgia for Yavamas, and some people it's going to give PTSD from Yavamas, this Gemara. Elohim HaKroivim. These are the Kroivim. We all know that a Karav is possible to say edus about another Karav. So these are the Kroivim that are possible to say edus. So we're talking about from your perspective. So you're the person who's being looked at. Are they possible? These are the edim that are possible to say edus about me and that I can't say about them. Achiv. So my brother is possible to say edus about me. Va'achi aviv, my father's brother. So I think it's useful to look at this, that from the perspective that you're Ruvain over here, right? So your father is Yaakov, and your father's brother is Esav. So Esav is going to be a karav that's us possible to say Edis about. Vachi imai, as well as his mother Rivka Lavan, right? So Ruvain's mother is no, that's not right, not Lavan. Achi imai. So his mother is Ruvain's mother. I'm sorry, no, yeah, it's Rivka. So Rivka is Lavan's brother, sister. Lavan is Rivka's brother. So Achi imai, his mother's brother. Ubala Chaisai, and the husband of his sister Dina, Dina's husband. Ubal Achais Aviv, and the husband of his father's brother. So we don't have any brother, we don't have any sister for Yaakov, but assuming he has a sister, Reuven's. So you as Reuven, your father's sister's husband, so your uncle from by marriage. Ubal achais imai. Similarly, equivalently, his mother Leah. I know I said I should. No, yeah, Reuven's mother is Leah. So Leah's sister, your mother's sister's husband, again another uncle, but from your mother's sister, Ubal Imai, and the husband of your mother. If your mother remarries, so you're not your father, she's going to be that your stepfather is going to be Asa. Bechamav, your father-in-law, Begisai, and your whatchamacallit, and your well, hold on, Baal Imai, Bechamav, and his father-in-law, Begisai, and a brother-in-law. So that means his wife's sister's husband. So again, another man who comes in through marriage. Hain, all of these people that are kroivim, Hain, ubneyen, bechasneyen, their sons, as well as their sons-in-law, are all going to be pasul als kroivim. So if you add it up, how many is it? I think it's 10. I think it's actually 9. And then the 10th is b'chargoi levade. And additionally, one's stepson, if he marries a woman and that woman has a son, that son is also, he himself is going to be pasul al tzakarev. But even though we said in the previous 9 examples, or the previous 9 categories of people that are kroivim, we said that their sons and sons-in-law are also asur. By a charga, by his son-in-law, that doesn't apply. His son-in-law himself is the only one who's going to be a karev, but not his son-in-law, I'm sorry, his stepson is the only one that's going to be pasul, but the stepson's son and son-in-law will not be considered a karev. Rabbi Yossi, Zu Mishnas Rabbi Akiva. This is the sheet of Rabbi Akiva. This is a nice long list that Rabbi Akiva holds, which, as we're going to see later on, there's a brisa that says it comes out to 24. We leave out the last 2 of Chargai and Bnei and V'chasne, and I think one of them Gisai. But we come out. Let's see. Achiv v'achi aviv is 2, v'achima is 3, Baal Chaisa is 4, Baal Chaisa aviv is 5, Baal Chaisa is 6, Baal Imai is 7, v'chamav is 8. And then Gisai and Chargai are left out. So we have 8, each one includes, as well as those 8, includes their son and son-in-law. So that gets you to 24. And we're going to see later on, the Gemara is going to explain why we leave out Gisai and Chargai from our count. But it comes out to 24 people that are us. So Rabbi Yossi says, Zu Mishnas Rabbi Akiva. This that we just said is the sheet of Rabbi Akiva. The Mishnah Rishayna, there was an earlier Mishnah who says Daidai, his uncle, meaning his father's brother, Uben Daidai, and the son of his father, meaning his cousin, B'chol Haroi Liyarsha. and anyone who's roy to yarshanim. So according to the Mishnah Rishon, it's a much more limited group. We had a number of women and his things to his mother and his mother's sister and his father's sister, and Yerusha doesn't go. He's not able to yarshin through a woman. So the Mishnah Rishon said it's only something that you're royal to yarshin. Our Rebbe Kiva said a more expansive rule. The Mishnah continues, "V'chol hakarav loy ba'oisasha." Whoever is carved to him at the time that he said the edus, or that he was found to be lying, but hayakarav in Israchik. I'm sorry, at the time. I'm sorry, not the way he was found to be lying. Whoever was at the time that the testimony, the event that he's testifying about occurred, or at the time of the testimony, if he's a karv at that time, he's going to be pasul. Hayakarav in Israchik. So Rashi says, we're going back to Rabbi Akiva, and he explains, for example, like his son-in-law, and his daughter died before he saw the edus. So his former son-in-law, hareza kosher. If he's not a karav at the time of the edus, he's going to be kosher. Rehuda Aimer, afilu mesa bitai. Even in the case that we just talked about, where someone's son-in-law is puzzled because he's a karav, but if his daughter died, so he's no longer his son-in-law, he's an ex-son-in-law, we said he's going to be kosher, but if his daughter died, if he still has a grandson, so then harezeh karav. This son-in-law is still going to be a karav. I guess you still have to support him after his daughter died. I don't know. I didn't see the Gemara yet on that. Ha'ayiv, the Mishnah continues. Ha'ayiv v'hasaynev. Someone who is a good friend or someone who is an enemy. These are also going to be puzzle. And this is obviously, it's not a subjective thing that you just say, I don't like, how do you judge who's your ayiv and who's your saynev? Ayiv is shushbina. And ayiv is this shushbina, which we've come across shushbina. Shushbina is a whole legal thing, right? We said before that if someone goes to a chasana and he gives gifts, it creates a legal requirement that you respond with the gift. So someone who actually gave the gift, that's a shushbina. Sayna, and what's a sayna? Someone who out of hatred you didn't speak to. That means you see him every day in shul, and you cross the street, you cross to the other side to avoid him, you don't talk to him for 3 days. This is all Reb Yehuda. The Tana disagrees. No, that even if they hate someone or they love someone, we don't say that they're going to lie about them because of their negias. Once they get into Bezdin, they're going to say the truth, because it's certainly like we said, it's a very chamadik iser. It's worse even than eating nevelas lahaches. So certainly we are not choishish that people, because of sino or because of ava, are going to contravene the iser of lying, of saying false edus. Where do all these, the iser of all these krivim, where does the psul of all these krivim come from? The Tana Rabbanon, Layumsu Avas Albanim, the whole pasuk is a familiar pasuk. Layumsu Avas Albanim, a father will not be killed because of his son. Ubanim Layumsu Al Avas, and sons will not be killed of the father. Ish Bechata Yumsu. Each person will be killed because of his own chatoim. Ma Talmud Loimer. What is this coming to tell you? Ilmu Lamet Shlo Yumsu Avas Ba'avoim Banim. Ubanim Ba'avoim Avos. If it's Kemashmoy, that it's coming to tell you that, as it's often quoted, sons will not die with the sins of the father, and vice versa. Harek Farnema, we already know this rule. Ish Becheta Yumsu. The pasuk concludes, each person dies with his own chait. So what do we have to say? La Yumsu Avos Abanim Banim Al Avos. Ella La Yumsu Avos Abanim Be'edus Banim. Banim La Yumsu Al Avos Be'edus Avos. Coming to tell you that brothers will not be killed because of the edus of fathers, and fathers will not be killed with the edus of sons. So as it's going to become clear, okay, we'll get back to exactly what that means. As we're going to see soon, when it says banim, it means an avos. It's referring to what we talked about before, where you have Yaakov and Esav. It says avos, two fathers. So it means two fathers on the first generation, like we're going to see later on. That's called the Rishon. And banim refers to their sons, their respective sons. So it will mean Esav's sons are going to be puzzled to say about either Yaakov or Esav, and Yaakov's sons will be puzzled to say about Yaakov and Esav, and vice versa. Track the Gemara. How could you say this was predicated? We said because it says Ishbechatay Yumsu that a son does not get killed for his father's chatoim. We say that the Rebbe Shem does revisit the avinus of a father on his son. So how can we make a statement saying that it's pashut that this is so, and we don't even need this pasuk here? We have it extra, but it happens not to be the case. We know that fathers do get the children do get punished for the sins of their father. That's talking about where the sons, they're not getting punished because of what the father did. We're saying the sons will follow the fathers and do the same avodas. That's where they get the same. That's where they get punished. It doesn't mean they get punished directly for what the father did, but they're getting punished because they're doing the same thing. To the Tanya, the pasuk says, and also you will be punished. You'll fade away because of the avodas of your fathers. That's talking about where they're their father's maises. So maybe who says that it's only talking about where they're following in their footsteps? The children are following their father's footsteps and doing the same thing. Since we know that the Torah already says that that each person only gets punished for his own chatayim. So clearly, when it says that the children will be punished, it's talking about where they're doing the same thing. That each man will stumble on his brother, and that means one man will stumble on the sin of his fellow yid. That teaches you that every yid is an arav zet lezeh, and when one yid sins, we're all responsible. We're all going to suffer. That's talking about that we're all responsible for one another. That if we see that people are being but you can't just say I'm going to go along my own way and not say anything. You have to object. So far, what we found is like we described before. You have two fathers that they're going to be usher to say edus about their sons. So two brothers will be usher on each of their sons, on all their on their obviously on their own sons as well as their nephews, and vice versa. But and certainly the two fathers cannot say edus, two brothers cannot say edus about each other. Banim lebanim minolan. How do we know that, like the example we gave, Esav's sons and Yaakov's sons cannot say edus about each other, which we would call shnayim, right? There's a Rishon is Esav and Yaakov. The Shneim are the cousins, Esav's sons and Yaakov's sons, and then the Shlishis would be the second cousins, the children of Esav's sons and Reuven's sons. So but before we get to that, now we're talking about Shneim l'Shneim, the cousins to one another. Should have just said a father will not die on the son. my banim, dafilu banim lahadadi. It's coming to tell you even sons to one another. Dr. Mara Ashkam banim lahadadi. So that will tell you cousins. Banim la'alma minalan. How do we know? We've been talking until now that Krovim cannot say edus about another Karev. How do we know you can't have two edus, two edim that are Krovim to each other, even if they're unrelated to the subject that they're the person that they're saying edus about? You can't have two brothers testifying together about an unrelated party. Amarami b'chama svaru. It's a svara. It's a Tanya. Eino edim nasim zoymimim. Edim don't become zoym machi yazumu shnei until both of them are huzam. If you could have two brothers, let's say Reuven and Shimon will testify about Moshe that he killed someone, and then they become zaymimim. And the rule is you have to have both of them become huzam. The only reason why Reuven and Shimon are both getting killed is because Reuven said the edus and Shimon said the edus. If the other one had not said the edus, then Reuven couldn't have gotten. If Shimon hadn't said edus, then Reuven could have gotten killed. So he's causing the death of his brother. So it must be that they can't say edus together. Amalei Rava said, we had this earlier. We're talking. This is back in Baba Basra. If you have three brothers that say edus on 3 years of chazaka, each one says about a different year. And there's one aide who joins the first brother on the first year, and the second brother on the second, and the third on the third. We look at each year as a separate edus. Hare'elu gimel edus. Treat as 3 edus. It's not considered to be kroivim being made together. However, if you want to be mazimit and cause them to have to pay back the person they were saying the edus about, it's only if all 3 of them are huzam, because without all 3, nothing is accomplished. Just saying it's about 1 year will not cause someone to get a chazaka. So you see that an Eid Zayim causes to pay money because of its brother's edus. So l'chayre, it doesn't make sense to what you're saying. You have to say, and this, this is to be honest, this sounded reasonable to me from the beginning. Although one brother is causing the other brother to have to, like in the case of Hazama, to cause him to be killed, and over here, one brother is causing the other brother to be Huzam, that doesn't mean that he's saying edus about him. They're not joining together in edus. It's coming, the fact that they're becoming Huzam from someone else's Hazama, but they're not directly saying edus together with the other. So that's not going to be a kasha from there. So just like we say over there, that it's not considered, even though they're Huzam, all 3 of the brothers who said Eids the Chazaka, they're not going to be considered that they were saying Eids together. So too, in our case, 2 brothers that it could be that Banim La'alma, that we have 2 brothers, maybe they would be kosher edus to say edus together. They're not going to be considered that they're being mazim one another. Ella, I'm sorry. Hachanami Hazam Ba'amakasi. Ella imkain lichtav kra ubein al avos inami heim al avos. The Gemara says we get that Banim are going to be brothers. Kravim are going to be asa la'alma. They're going to be asa to say edus together, because it could have said Ubein alavas. What does it say? Ubanim alavas. Inami heim alavas. They, the original, we already said la yumsu avas avanim ubanim alavas. Why do you have to say ubanim alavas? Let's just say ben alavas or heim alavas. My ubanim. Why does it have to say a second time banim? Afilu banim la'alma. That's coming to say even banim la'alma. Ashkachan kreve av kreve eminal. And how do we know the relatives of the mother? Amakra avas avas trei zimni. It doesn't have to say Yimsu Avas Albanim Ubanim Alavis. You could have just said one.
This is all Rabbi Akiva.
This is all Rabbi Akiva, right? Because according to the Mishnah Rishona, it's only males. Ashkachan l'chayva l'schus minalan. This is all to tell you we're saying Yimsu Avas that you can't cause someone to get killed. But how do we know that you can't have edus come to be mizaka someone? Amakra yumsu. Yumsu tre zimni. It says yumsu 2 times. Many in l'chayvet tneyu in l'schos. Ashkacham bedine nefashos. We found by dine nefashos. We're talking about yumsu. Bedine mamnas no. And how do we know the gabi dine mamnas? Amakra mishvadach yilachem. Mishvad hashava lachem. That it's a hekesh. We make a hekesh of dine mamnas to dine nefashos. This will apply to both. Okay. We'll stop over here. And Matzah Shabbos, we're going to struggle through a very complicated. It's just very hard to describe these relationships, but it's going to be a full-fledged Yavamas type of thing.